When I was asked to come and speak here, I was a little nervous. I'm not a lover of public speaking, but the thing is, I couldn't say no to this opportunity because I think we all need to speak up for services like Lifelight. They're just too important to sit quietly by and hope someone else is making a good cause, good case. Where we live, you can hear the Lifelight helicopter when it comes and goes from Gympie Hospital. It's loud, it's unmissable, and it's wonderful. It means someone is being given their best chance of surviving some horrible ordeal. When Tracy got her free flight, free helicopter ride, statistically she had a 10% chance of survival. An artery burst in her stomach, and because it's so rare a thing in someone her age, and the symptoms aren't cut and dry, she was diagnosed firstly as having constipation, and after a scan with suspected cancer. It was neither, it was an aneurysm. For 2 days she'd been bleeding internally, and the laxatives weren't fixing it. I have faith in doctors and modern medicine, and in science in general. I believe we're extremely lucky in this country to have a system in place to help people regardless of their economic or social standing. There's never been a better time in the history of our species to get sick, is something I was always saying when people came into the bank I worked at up until last year. It gives you something to hang your hopes on, even when things look their worst. When Tracy collapsed in the hospital in the emergency department of the Gympie Hospital, it was the trigger they needed to understand what the problem was. "Are you following us down?" the ambulance driver asked me once Tracy was secured in the back of the vehicle with another paramedic and a doctor and lots of bags full of red stuff. They were giving her blood the whole way to Nambour. I nodded at the driver. "Well, don't try to keep up," he said. "We're moving under lights and siren." I raced up to my car and took off down the highway. I don't know how many of you have been overtaken by a fully lit ambulance, knowing someone you love is inside fighting for their life, but for everyone who hasn't, I can tell you it is surreal. On arriving at Nambour Hospital, I was shown up to a waiting room, and the news wasn't fantastic. It's touch and go, I was told. She came in very unstable. You can't lose and replace that much blood without consequences. The keyhole surgery to stop the bleeding by lodging tiny coils on either side of the damage went really well, right up until the moment it didn't. A coil went the wrong way and lodged in the main artery. Fortunately, they retrieved it, but not before a clot formed and the artery had some damage. Now the artery was closed and the blood was cut off from the bulk of her bowels. It could be fixed, they said, but they didn't have a vascular doctor. Enter Lifelight. Mid-operation, they hooked her up to some machines on wheels and she got a free chopper ride to Brisbane. Mid-operation, I didn't even know they could do that. You might think, given Tracy is here tonight, this was pretty much the end of the story, but it wasn't. Unfortunately, even with everyone's efforts, much of a small bowel had been starved of blood for too long and had started to die. Plus, even after cutting and pasting what was left, they'd found even more perforations. Then an infection set in. We're not encouraged by what we've seen, the surgeon told me. Usually, we'd remove the bit of bowel in question, only she doesn't have enough left for us to take more. I went home to Gympie and gathered everyone into the lounge room. Looking up expectantly, our 5 youngest kids sat amongst the members of our extended family. Their older brother and sister, their grandparents, uncles, aunties and cousins. "This has been the best weekend ever," grinned Joshua excitedly. "The kids have been farmed out to family to give me a chance to be with their mum." His 2 cousins nodded agreement from a short distance down the lounge. They love each other, these kids, and I love them for it. All the kids looked at me expectantly, excitedly. I took no joy in knowing I was about to hurt them to their core. "You guys know your mum's been sick," I started. "Very sick. And you know she's had a number of major operations. The thing is, guys, she's done very well. She's been really fighting. She shouldn't have made it past the first night. It's only because your mummy is so young and fit she's made it this far. She really has amazed everyone at the hospital. But the thing is, I'm going to take you guys down to Brisbane today to see her." "Is she awake?" they wanted to know. This was killing me. I was about to destroy the worlds of these beautiful children Tracy and I had made and intuitively sworn to protect. While the smiles of these 5 little kids sitting amongst the family got even brighter and more excited at the prospect of seeing their mum, I could feel the unspoken support from the family in the room, and I was grateful they were there with us. "The thing is," I said, "Mummy isn't doing very well. She's fighting though." I added because by God she was. "And she's got an amazing team of doctors and nurses looking after her." The faces of the 3 older children took on questioning expressions. They finally sensed what was coming. "Is there anything else they can do?" one of them asked. No, I said, hating myself. Is she going to be okay? Another one was no. This was it. Probably not, I said. And then the scene in front of me collapsed. Children screamed and wailed and adults swept in to support and comfort them. It was dreadful, it was heart-wrenching, and it still cuts me up. But as you can see, it worked out okay. You know the thing I said about there never being a better time in the history to be sick? Now I have evidence. Because for Tracy, that's truer than ever. They asked if they could use Tracy in a trial where they did blood tests every half hour to monitor the maximum dosage of antibiotics her body could handle. Naturally, I said yes, and it worked. It beat the infection, which ultimately was going to take her. Tracy was 36 days in ICU and nearly 3 months in hospital all up. 10 operations, 11 now, and by the time she left, she was down to 90 centimetres of small bowel and had 2 bags on her belly. But by the skin of the graph, she made it. It was hard for our family, not so much Tracy, because she slept through most of it. But I wouldn't change a thing for fear of changing the wrong bit. You might think, given our journey, that Lifelight only had a small part to play in this. But we're here tonight, because if Lifelight wasn't a thing, Tracy wouldn't have made it through that very first night. When you think about Lifelight and what they do, you might be tempted to say they fly sick and injured people to hospitals, even that they do it quicker than an ambulance on the road, or safer and smoother, and leave it at that. And to a point you'd be right, but it's not the whole story. What you magnificent people at Lifelight do, and you wonderful people who support them, have done for this family is to give my best friend back and to give our children their mum. You've actually changed their childhood and you've changed their lives. And all because you keep Lifelight in the air. So from Team Devro, we just want to say thank you, and I hope when we're back home we'll continue to hear the sound of people being airlifted to where they need to be. So thank you.